If there's one thing I've learned about the internet, it's that nostalgia is a very, very strong and pervasive feeling, especially nowadays. You can't shake a stick without hitting a listicle or a video or something revolving around the 80s, the 90s, heck, even the early 2000s at this point. This is why remakes and reimaginings and other re-whatevers are so prominent, whether they're needed or not. Now, I could go on and on about which furry nostalgic pieces are floating around and how they end up and how they compare to one another, but I'll save that for another video and just focus on one. The greasy hot mess that is Chuck E. Cheese. It's been a really long time since I stepped foot inside the place, but that might be for a good reason, though that might change if I ever get invited to a small child or child at heart's birthday party. Simply put, the low-quality food and entertainment in order to sell arcade games doesn't appeal to me anymore. So, history time. Way back in the 70s, the late 70s, actually, Atari founder Nolan Bushnell wanted to make video game machines seem less like pool hall gambling machines and more like family-friendly fun times. So, San Jose, California saw Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater its first, quote, family restaurant to integrate food, cheap animated entertainment, and an indoor arcade. Things were all fine and dandy until the dreaded video game crash of 1983, where Bushnell had to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy a year later and merge with Showbiz Pizza Place Inc., a former copycat competitor that also got into a fit of suing and countersuing between them and Bushnell as well. That's the tricky thing about IPs. Eventually, after some restructuring, redesigning, mergers, other business hoo-ha, they decided to stick with Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza for all their restaurant names since 1992, and then shorten it down to Chuck E. Cheese's in 95. Now, some of you viewers might be a bit confused as this footage behind me shows a much different mouse than today's Chuck E. Cheese mascot. That's because they rebranded the character back in 2012 to make him, quote, look more like a rock star. I mean, I guess. And here's a little Texas tidbit for you watching. The new voice actor for Chuck E. Cheese is Jarrett Reddick, lead singer of Denton, Texas-based pop-punk band Bowling for Soup. Yes, that Bowling for Soup. Oh, and their current headquarters are currently in Irving, Texas. So, yeehaw. Oh, don't worry, there's a review in here. Let me just find it here. Here we go. Chuck E. Cheese in the Galaxy 5000, where there is no Galaxy 5000, but there is a lot of cheese. This direct-to-VHS movie, meant to promote the restaurant and its characters, was made back in 1999, and it specializes in one thing in particular. Cheese. And not the kind you put on pizza. So, get this, some little kid busts into the restaurant, which looks nothing like a Chuck E. Cheese, come to think of it, and wants some help from Chuck and his pals. Charlie's aunt and uncle need $50,000 to repair their tractor's engine, which, holy moly, that is one expensive engine. I would just buy a new one at that point, but, I mean, I guess that costs money too. So the best course of action is go to planet Orion, which is not located in Orion's belt, and win a pod race against a surprising amount of humanoid aliens. Our main characters are Chuck E., Helen, Jasper, who's probably just a crystal gem hiding in a dog costume, and Mr. Munch, played by the legendary Chris Sabat. Yes, that Sabat. The one and only Vegeta from DBZ, as well as other voices. In this scene, he's the piano player. And he's this announcer as well.
The Galaxy 5000 is an interplanetary race on the planet Orion.
Really trying to rake in that Chuck E. Cheese money, I see. Anyway, here's Chuck E. He is the leader of the bunch, you know him well. And he's the generic, excitable male protagonist who's enthusiastic for adventure. Basically, he has very little personality, although that doesn't stop Helen from having a notable thing for him. This chick is one of our few female characters who acts as an object of desire for not just Chuck E., but some of our antagonists as well. This also means she becomes a damsel in distress, even when she's intentionally being a covert chicken. So in a way, she's about as vapid as Chuck E. is in this case. Maybe that's why they go so well together.
Ooh. Hi.
Ooh, Chucky!
Jasper is more or less the Applejack of this franchise, wherein both are very country bumpkin-esque and down-to-earth, though Jasper here is a lot more of a goof than Texas Pony. And finally, we have Mr. Munch. What is Mr. Munch exactly? He's supposed to be a monster in the Sesame Street sense of the word, but man, is he something. According to this film, one of his defining character traits is his tendency to not wear shoes. Yes, I'm dead serious. There is more than one joke made here based on Mr. Munch not wearing his shoes for one reason or another. Pretty sure he could just go to a doctor and get that taken care of. You know how John St. John, who is famous for his role as Duke Nukem, regrets his role as Big the Cat in Sonic Adventure? Yeah, pretty sure that's how Sabat feels about Mr. Munch. And then our main villain is the cane-wielding Dr. Zoom, whose advances to the medical and pharmaceutical field include some form of performance-enhancing drug in the form of a Zoom gas, which turns you into a raging meathead, as demonstrated by Peter and Ivan. They're still able to get with the ladies despite their meathead personas, which is something I've never really figured out in fiction. They have trouble counting.
5, 4, 5, 3, 3.
And yet they have hordes of women around them just for being successful racers. I wonder how many women actually equate douchey behavior to fame or success at this point. Hey girl, what's up?
Oh, hey Lightning. I'm just getting some work done.
Oh, really? Well, how would you like me to help you with some other type of special work?
Actually, that would be great.
Yeah, wait, what?
I'm running super behind on my drawing, so if you could help me out with the editing, that would be fantastic. The rest of the video needs to be cut and match the audio, the music needs to be mixed in, a few more jokes, but not too many, and so on. Thanks for offering to help, I really appreciate it.
Astrid. She has a fetish for successful racers and is played by Lydia McKay, who voiced Trisha Elric from Full Metal Alchemist and Athena from Borderlands. She's also a very successful theater actress and teaches theater over at TCU, so I'm guessing this was just a side job while she prepared for her role as Macbeth or something. Astrid is another basic object of desire, adding a romantic conflict to Chucky as he has to figure out if he wants to get with a human or a chicken that has trouble singing in time.
How could you say that I'm just one of the guys? Can't you see the sparkle in my eyes?
I might have gone with Astrid just because she's a better actress. Now, as far as film sets go, there are only two. The restaurant and green screen. Like, oh my god, there's green screen. Just wow. The amount of obvious green screen PS1 quality environments is pretty glaring. I mean, I know dubbing anime doesn't make that much money, but I didn't expect a Funimation production to be this low budget. There also seems to be a trend in every media containing animatronic or mascot suits, where mouth movements and facial expressions are difficult to do. Suffice to say. I realize that the voice actors here are trying their hardest to varying degrees of success, but there isn't a whole lot you can do with a giant animal head outside of controlling mouth flats and eyelids, and even then it's a little uncanny. Speaking of voice actors, the pick of their litter seems to be half anime voice actors and half nobodies who haven't done anything else since this movie or franchise. I'm still kind of baffled that Funimation is the one company they chose to make this low budget crap. I know the Chuck E. Cheese corporate HQ was in Irving at this point, mainly because I did my research, but it's still pretty hilarious to see people that have done voices for Fairy Tail and One Piece suddenly show up as an extra, or worse, one of the main characters. If you can't tell, I'm having a hard time taking this seriously, because that's actually one of the main reasons to watch this. So bad it's good schlock made for kids, with a bit of nostalgic factor as well. But enough about that, let's get into the more important part of this video. Now, when it comes to furriness, there is actually an okay amount of it when it comes to mascot characters acting like anthropomorphic animals. Helen, for example, gets absolutely triggered at the mention of fried chicken, or, the general slaughter of her species in order to feed the human population.
Oh! Oops! Oh, where do humans get off anyway, eating poor little defenseless birds? Are they crazy?
Honestly, one of the darkest things that I wouldn't have expected from a kids movie based on a pizza and arcade-based franchise. It does arguably add to the furriness scale, so props to that. There's also the weird concept that the Orion planet aliens, or humans, or whatever, are perfectly okay with romantic interests between humans and non-humans, like how Astrid keeps trying to flirt with Chucky, or how Peter and Ivan keep flirting with the hen. That could just be a progressive sci-fi society thing, though. There's also Jasper's dog puns, but that's kind of where it falls short, outside of there being furry characters in this film. See, their furriness doesn't actually add to the plot, and these characters could be replaced with human characters. I guess I don't feel that bad since we're talking about Chuck E. Cheese of all things, but if brands like My Little Pony can make a successful series that can sell toys and tell engaging stories, then why not other corporate brands? The combination of human and furry characters probably gives it a less furry feel to it, but I mean, that doesn't really stop shows like BoJack from being furry. And don't worry, I'll get to that in another episode. I don't know what would make Chuck E. Cheese more furry, though. Can't imagine throwing more mascot costumes would help. Maybe if Chucky's motivation was more mouse-based and less about random space race shenanigans to help some farm brat's uber-expensive tractor, maybe then it would be higher on the furriness scale. I would rate this a very hard 2.5 out of 5 in terms of cheesy entertainment, and then another 2.5 in terms of furriness, not for everyone. Now you may be wondering why this is actually higher on the furriness scale than Buta, and that comes to a pretty simple reason actually. When I was watching Buta, I couldn't actually tell that these were furry characters that were talking to each other. I mean, they could just be human characters that just happened to be animals on the outside, if that makes sense. Like, the characters in Buta acted a lot more human than the characters here in Chuck E. Cheese, and are referred to more human-like than the characters in Chuck E. Cheese. Like, there are little details in this Chuck E. Cheese movie that are more anthropomorphic than any other detail in Buta. Well, this has been another episode of How Furry Is It? I am your host, Gregor, authentic blend of 23 flavors reindeer, and stick around for more furry analysis and antler antics. Once again, thank you to Autumn Hart for not only sending a shout out to this channel, but also helping out with the little skit during the review where I act douchey. She actually helped out with the script and did all the animations for that little skit as well, so that's cool. Anyway, see you next episode, and for